think I'm muted. Is that right? Yeah, welcome to Tuesday. Tuesday's gone with the wind. Oh, I look like shit. Sorry about that. Here, let me fix it for you guys. You guys were like, James, you're not beautiful enough to be on camera. And I'm like, I know, but my soul is glowing with charisma. And so I feel that I have to be here. There's a lot to cover. God, I wish I could keep researching. The camera was freaking out again yesterday. Sorry about that. And so I want to see if I can fix this. I've been working on the show since like 4 this morning. And then I took a nap. And then I'm a different person. I keep forgetting that happens. Where's the give me a sec here. Is it this one? No. Is it this one? No. Is it this one? Yeah. I think this one doesn't shake. So we'll do this one. You can look at my Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Welcome to Change Your Life. I wanted to discuss the Iroquois Confederacy today because I have a new thought to share with you guys. I've discussed this quite a lot. And I believe that America was not discovered, it was erased. And I mean that in a PR standpoint, in the sense of the public relations that happened there. I don't know why Pence is on the screen. I've been having this weird issue where when I go to present now, it's just got a frozen screen of what was there like 6 days ago. And this morning let me just fix that for you. I think it's going to be this one. Yep. And I got to tell it this. So it always happens when I stream. Go figure. So, yeah, let's see. Whoops. I want to go there. There we go. Thanks. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Good to see everybody. Yeah, like I've been saying, I've been working really hard on this. I could work more on it. But that's okay. I don't know how to, I'll be honest with you, I don't know how to survive with what it takes to just like pay my bills and put like 10 hours into a show, unless I go 5 days a week. And then if I go 5 days a week, you guys are super generous with the chats. Thank you so much. But then I just work myself. I don't have a life. I can't clean my house. I can't go grocery shopping. I can't do anything else. And I have weekends, but now it's winter time and the weekends, you can't even leave the house. It takes like 2 hours to leave because I live in a ski town and the ski town's gotten really, really popular. So, it might sound like I'm complaining, but some of you are like, why do you stream so much? It's like, because I have to pay my bills. That's it. Why do you not stream enough? No one's ever said that. Although sometimes people are like, why don't you stream anymore? Which is nice. It's confusing. Honestly, if I could keep researching this, I would I would read the Book of Mormon again. Not the Book of Mormon, I would read the writings that led to and were based around the Book of Mormon and early American thought. So if you want to help, because I think I'm going to have to sell my house in order to keep doing this show. And that really bums me out because my house is pretty cheap. I owe like $100,000 on this house, guys. If I can't afford a $100,000 house, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm probably going to have to find a new living, which is fine. But if we were just like fucking sign up for Patreon, I appreciate your chats. I'm not muted. But for me to plan a show, I need like 3 months ahead. What I mean is that for 3 solid months, if we could just meet my basic minimum requirements, I think my shows would get like really polished. And I wouldn't just have to go through this just constant like death spiral. And then not to mention when you go through a giant hurricane, it's just like it throws a big wrench in the gear. So I really put a ton of research into what I read, what I say. And it's a luxury. I don't do it because it's painful. I do it because I can't stop. I find it obsessive. And I wish that you guys wanted that. Like I know some of you do, but man, if you guys could just join Patreon and if we could just stay at my minimum level instead of like, it's like we join in the beginning, but then half a year, like I got bills to pay, then you kind of drop. And then it's the next month. It was just promises that weren't actually fulfilled because of the way the economy works. And I get all of us are screwed. So that you're watching a show dying. You're watching a show that I've been telling you I would love to keep doing this. I could really need your help. And then, I'm doing the best I can, but it's just not working. I don't want to sell my house. But if I will, I will. It'll probably going to move in with my folks while the house is on the market because I cannot be here while my house is on sale. There's no fucking way I can do a live stream when a realtor's coming by telling me that I need molding or I need to put some trim up. It's not going to happen. Also, it's going to be a huge gut to all the work I put into wiring everything up, getting all the cameras right, even though they're wrong all the time. It takes a lot to practice to be muted every morning. Setting all that up in a new place is going to take, I'd say, probably like 6 months. And then in the middle of that, I'm probably going to notice, why am I live streaming? It's not sustainable. I should just write books and just stay poor. And then at least that way I could just finish the opus of my own work and honestly, just kind of milk off someone else for a while. Like, find a nice girl, say, hey, baby, what if I traded you me being naked and let me stay in your house? And, maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing. That's fine, guys. I don't even want you to feel like it has to be here. It's just surprising to me that someone with a perspective that I don't see a lot as mine has such a long road, slouchy road through the barrels of can I pay my bills? So, man, yeah, Lucky rented out said, this is what I mean. Guys, can you stop giving stupid, retarded advice? That's rude as shit, Lucky. I know that I just said that, but please stop. Guys, if I rent it out, I'm going to be here cleaning up after people. I'm going to wipe their nose every day. There's no fucking way I'm going to do a show. Plus, I'm going to hate you guys. I'm going to hate you guys because the whole time I'm like, really? I owe $98,000 on my house and I can't fucking afford that house payment? That's it? That's the threshold where we're at? And it's just like, well, dude, just do this. And why don't you just have a roommate? It's like, yeah, I had my aunt here. She literally took me for $700 a month. I don't mean like she was going to pay. I mean like $700 out of my pocket was going to her so she could help me. Brent Chinaman, a dude who said, I'm going to give you a lot of grants. And then Jane and John, these rich people who live in the South, they're promised me, yeah, we'll give you a grant and do this. Never. I gave Brent $300 every month for a year and a half because he kept saying, I'm going to raise money and get grants. It never fucking happened. It doesn't happen. I am a fool. I trust way too much. So I'm at the point where I'm resigned from it because I've already tried to beg. I'm also feel bad for my patrons because my patrons are like, fuck, man. Why can we not find a few more people? Like, why? And I don't know why. My show doesn't get shared. It doesn't really get around. People don't discuss it. It doesn't have clips. I don't really think it's really the appetite. People don't really have an appetite for me. And that's okay, too. It's not the first time I've heard that. The world is not ready for James Drew. I'm surprised, honestly, it's lasted this long. So I'm not even complaining. If it does go this way, and I'm literally deciding like in the next week or two, I don't have a choice. My mom died. I got to figure out what the fuck I'm going to do, guys. I was trying to stay here to figure out maybe my mom will like, hey, let's have a relationship. Oh, that'll be fun. And that didn't fucking work out. And now I gotta do something, guys. I gotta do something. So I should just end the show. This is a horrible way to start the show. Horrible. But like I said, I was up at like at 4 a.m. Just like, man, I really want to do a good show. And I haven't read enough about this and I haven't prepared the slides. And I don't know. I don't think other truthers are doing that. I don't think they are. I do want to take a break to say thanks, guys, for helping. I really do mean that. Yeah, that's why Brent's so quiet, Nate. Brent left town without even saying goodbye. He just fucking left. And you know what? He talks to everyone else in our tribe except for me. Do you know why? Because he knows what he did. And that's how it happens. It's okay. Yeah, P.O. Box 403, Edward Bernays Sauce. Banner Elk NC 28604. I think it's in the comments, but there's no but. I do appreciate the super chats. What I'm looking for is, could I get a steady budget? Because I'm an autist, kind of have ADHD, and if after 3 months everything stabilizes, I'm like cleaning my bathrooms again. Renee, don't laugh. It's serious. If there's like a 3-month delay, I'm like on top of things where it's like I feel everything's okay. I'm not like wondering what's going to happen next. I don't have to do that. And when I do that, my work is fucking crystal clear. It's crystal clear. So yeah, it's, man. And I'll tell you, since I got rid of the mod, since we had that whole war last year, some of you guys may be wondering, well, is that what did it? Guys, I was earning like a third less than I'm earning now. Saying goodbye to that group was actually absolutely necessary to even last the next year, because those guys were cannibalizing others. New people would come in, hey, what's James Drew Live? And they're like, you have boobies, we hate your guts. And it's a mess, man. It's a mess. This is really tricky until you get past that threshold. And once I have that threshold, it doesn't get tricky anymore. Plus, on top of all that, I'm still trying to do an airship. I got people saying, hey, James, I can't meet in the afternoon. Can you meet at night? So last week, I did 5 shows, and I still met airship at night at 7 p.m. And I'm tired as fuck. I don't know how to maintain that. There's no fucking way. So I'm doing what I can. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't think I am. It'd be great if you could join, but like I said, it's now February 11th, and I'm now have enough patrons that I needed back in January 1st, and I don't know if those are going to stay because, quite frankly, most of them, not most of them, but a lot of them say, yes, I'm going to help you, and then right before it's time to pay the patron bill, they quit. Really excited about opening this camera, and I'm saving it for a special occasion. Iroquois Confederacy, you guys still there? You're probably not. You're probably like, fuck this guy. I don't blame you. I wouldn't watch this. If I was watching someone do this, I wouldn't do it. Unless I'd given him money. Then I'd be like, shut up, dude. I already gave you money. And then, so really, I'm talking to a very small scope of you. I'm pretty sure you're imaginary. But I believe in imagination. It's one of the most important things we have. I just want to do the show, guys. I'm not like promising to build you a giant wilderness where you can come stay, and then I'm never going to do that. I'm not going to secretly route it into a house or build it. I'm not going to build methane infused CBD oil and sell it on the fucking street to felons. I'm not going to tell you fucking bullshit lies about a Luciferian cult. I'm not going to tell you that only I and no one else has discovered a second fucking sun. I'm literally telling you the truth in history, and that's why it's so fucking hard to keep this thing alive, because I'm telling you the truth. I'm limited to the facts of here's what we have, how does this fit in with mythology. We found out some great, amazing things, though, and we could keep going, and me doing this is not going to help. Hello, Yesenia, you are here, and I appreciate that. Welcome, Yesenia, new face around, and I've enjoyed it. She's got some great posts on Substack. You guys, a lot of us are on Substack. You should go there and check it out. So I wish you find a suitable sponsor. Yes, I'd love to find a suitable sponsor. Someone wrote and said, I will be your sponsor, but then they told me it was an affiliate program. Ugh. An affiliate program is not a sponsorship. An affiliate program is, if you do something for me, I will give you a cut of that. And it's like, okay, so you want me to work fucking 8 goddamn hours on research for a show, do it 5 days a week, do an airship, and then sell your wares in hopes that you will give me a commission probably after 6 or 8 weeks of waiting. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, thanks. This is bad, isn't it? I should go. I think that Conotocaurius, okay, so George Washington is a fascinating figure. I'm not even sure if he's real. I think he is, and it's important to tell the story, but I do think he's more of a conglomeration of things. It's a conglomeration of a bunch of different mythologies is what it is. And what that means is something like this. Wait. First, we got to start with Turtle Island. Some of you guys may not know this expression. Hi, welcome to James Drew. Sorry for the rough start. I didn't mean to start that way. Sometimes I'm too honest. Turtle Island is this concept that all of us are living on the back of a turtle. You've probably heard that, but Turtle Island was actually a place. It was actually a living country, and it was North America. You and I think of North America as being straight up and down, where we look at the country from a north-south perspective. And believe it or not, the people that occupied this beautiful land that I'm sitting on now saw it east-west. They actually saw America laying, if you were to turn your head 90 degrees to the right. So to them, America was this way. not this way. And when you look at it this way, you end up with this shape, which you can see on the screen, and it sort of maybe resembles a turtle. And especially as you are navigating the waters of America, as Nate pointed out yesterday, guys, the entire island east of the Mississippi is an island, right? So it's like when you start to really tap into the shape of things, you anthropomorphize it, and you end up with this idea of this is Turtle Island. And so we have a place called Turtle Island. And Turtle Island was actually a country. They had smelting, they had trade, they had language, they had government. Yes, they did. They had war, they had peace, they had rape, they had crime, they had lore, they had mythology, they had all that stuff. They had star forts, they had a lot of stuff. These things were here and they were thriving. And when they were thriving, you looked at a European aristocracy of monarchies that were aligned underground, but outwardly were pretending to be enemies. And that some of these aristocracies gathered and said, oh, let's take over this new land. And the way to take over this new land is to divide and conquer. So Turtle Island was really dissected by the French, the British, a little bit of Spanish, and there's another party which I think I will probably think of next. But the point is that all of these different factions were sent in a very strategic way to navigate through to a certain region and to overthrow or disrupt that region in place. And this wasn't like a 10-year war. It wasn't a 5-year war. It wasn't a 100-year war. Believe it or not, the Confederacy of the South, that word is still existing as an engram from the memory of Turtle Island, of the place where which we came. And the idea of the South will rise again, it's really more accurate to say the Iroquois will rise again, but actually it's more accurate to say the Haudenosaunee would rise again, because Iroquois really just means sneaky snake, right? So it's like the Algonquin, the Indians to the east of the Iroquois told us, oh, those are the sneaky snakes. And we're like, oh, hello, sneaky snakes, we're your new friends. We brought you beads, and they're like, why are you calling us sneaky snakes? It's like, because you're a sneaky snake and we respect you and all that stuff. And then you have this mythology that starts to compete. Here's what I mean. If you're going to take over a people, you're going to need to take over their mythology. And the only way to take over their mythology, as Trump teaches you, is to regulate it. In order to regulate it, you're going to find it, you're going to match it, you're going to outpace it. And the way to outpace it is you have to believe in it. And if you believe in it, then everyone else thinks you believe in it and they align with you. And in order for them to really think that, I think you actually do have to believe it. And I think that's what George Washington did. That's what I forget that some of you guys don't think of people this way. George Washington is not a single individual. Dolphins undulate up and out of the water, and this is your past lives. And your grandfather can be out of the water at the same time when your grandchild is popping up. And that those two creatures could be the same entity. They could be the same identity. The reason why it's the same identity is because you and I compartmentalize ourselves or cloister ourselves every time the dolphin comes out of the water and undulates. We think that's a single life. And because of that, we're ignoring the rest of our plant structure, our roots. So when I tell you George Washington, you might think of just one George Washington, but I'm actually thinking about the great paternal grandfather of George Washington. When I say great, I don't mean like, oh, he's a great guy. I mean, he could have been, but you're about to see he wasn't. But these two undulations are the same. They're the same being. And Washington was a big part of this land, and he aligned, you'll find, with various factions at various times and did whatever he felt was necessary to survive. He was a renegade settler. He was a long hair. And we'll get to that term if I have time, if I wouldn't have spent so much time complaining. But it is just a, man, it's just a small budget. Oh, God, it'd be so great if we could do that. It'd be so great. So Turtle Island is actually broken up into these divisions. The original 13 colonies is not an accident. The reason why we adopted this conceptual idea of the 13 colonies is because it was built in the soil. The soil had this concept of these 13 different lands, and Turtle Island itself actually incorporates that. There are 13 pieces to the turtle shell. And inside these 13 pieces, there are 5 central points, these 5 nations. And these 5 nations are literally expressed as the 5 nations of the Iroquois. And from 1722 onward, the Haudenosaunee began this conceptual understanding of this larger conglomerate that you and I would call the 5 nations. But it actually goes much, much further back. But the root of Turtle Island comes from this place. In fact, it comes from a very specific event. On August 22nd, 1142, at 2:32 p.m., a total solar eclipse marked the beginning of the Iroquois Confederacy, and it was documented in Victor, New York. In Victor, New York, Iroquois had gathered. And they had gathered like they normally do, but when all of a sudden they saw a total solar eclipse, they took it as a sign and they formed a government. The declaration of, holy shit, there's an eclipse. And now you understand why God made eclipses, because when you have an eclipse, anything that wants to happen in the psyche gets to. If you want to kill someone, as soon as an eclipse comes up, you're going to be like, I have a great excuse. I'm going to kill you because there's an eclipse. If you want to take over land, you're going to be like, hey, I'm going to take over land because the eclipse told me to. If you want to bury the patriarchal bones of Jacob, Isaac, and all the other patriarchs, you're going to wait for a total eclipse to do it, and you're going to tell it's because God made you bury that history. And so here's the Iroquois, and they're like, hey, total eclipse, why don't we start a government? So they did. So they decided, because of this auspicious idea, we are chosen to meet here and to discuss our peace. And they did. And they had 13 notions of peace, 13 expressions of peace. Yeah, 13 expressions of peace. Thank you, Droopy. Thank you guys for the super chats. I really appreciate it. Sorry for the sour mood in the beginning. Just doing what I got to do. The 13 strands were expressed in the beadwork of the Iroquois. This separation into 13 parts is a very crucial thing. Not only is it incorporated in the turtle itself, but it's also incorporated in their literature. And when I say literature, most of their literature is used by tying knots and strings. And the order of which those knots kind of gives you this Morse code kind of a thing. And from that, you end up with contracts. The first contracts were written in string. They were tied in string and loops in certain ways. And anytime something important happened to your clan, you might add a knot to signify that. And all these different tribes have this knot at 1142. And that's really the birth of what they decided we will start to remember the Haudenosaunee. We will start to decide who we are. And how did they define themselves? They said, we are the people who are building a long house. Haudenosaunee. So if we're the people that are building a longhouse, then everyone can come help. And they chose a design for the longhouse. It's just like a long hallway with bunk beds on each side, right? And when you do that, it means if more people come, you just add more to the house. No big deal. So it's like a brilliant open source blockchain. Oh my God, James. Yeah, it's a blockchain. It's an organic blockchain because you add a little bit to it. And each person is accepted and justified under this system, and you build this government, and you're all set, right? So the blockchain builds itself through this system of Haudenosaunee. Now, so you've kicked off Turtle Island, and it's 1142. It's not 1775. It's not 1492. It's 1142. All this started in 1142. There's this concept called the entangled ones. And this led to the creation of a mythological creature, which you can call him real. I just using mythology. You'll see why I'm calling it mythological in a sec. Called Tadaho, snakes in hair. This word Tadaho is spelled a couple different ways. One of the major etymological meanings of this seems to be entangled hair, one with entangled hair. And if you listen to this story literally, you will picture that there's a Native American dude called Tadaho. And he's an Indian like everyone else, but for some reason he has snakes in his hair. And he has snakes in his hair because he's always pissy, he's mad, and he's a dark magician, and he practices all these things. And they were slowly able to struggle with Tadaho to form this land. In 1883 work, the Iroquois Book of Rights, Tahoe is signified to signify entangled. So this concept was, in order for us to have peace, since the Great Eclipse, we've had peace here. In order for us to maintain the peace, we need to reckon with the entangled one. And you think about this as a singular, but I want you to consider that it's kind of like, and we must reckon with the deer. And you would think, well, wait a minute, the deer, there's, which deer? It's like, exactly, it's all of them. And entangled one's the same thing. So Tadaho, for the purpose of our discussion, Tadaho, and I do believe this, but I don't want you to own it. Tadaho is not a singular person. Tadaho is anyone with entangled hair. Now, lightning speed round. First one in the chat wins my wins me calling, leaving a message on your answer machine, asking people to send me money. So if you want me to be the voicemail for your answer machine to ask people to send me money, you'll be the first person to answer this. I already forgot the quiz because I was trying to be funny. Oh, I know. What do you think Native American hair is known for? I think you're going to say dark or black. I think you're going to say thick. I think you're going to say straight. I think you're going to say Ginete. Right? Was one of you thinking Ginete? Okay. So, Tadaho maybe means people that don't have hair like us. And if you were to see someone with curly hair, you might describe that as snakes in hair, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Oh, James, this isn't enough. This isn't enough. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's not enough. We're just getting started, baby. We're just getting started. Tadaho, or Atotarho, was a member of the Grand Council of the Iroquois League. He was known for his dark magic and was feared by many. Dark magic. He was described as twisted in both body and mind, with snakes writhing in his hair. He was the aggressor in blood feuds and paralyzed the councils of the Onondaga. Okay? So you picture that? Picturing this Indian? Or are you already on board with what I'm saying? So on the top you have the 6 nations. But James, you said 5. Yeah, we'll get to that. You're going to love this part. But you have the 6 nations of the Iroquois. And what distinguishes themselves? It's not their hairstyle. It's their feathers. Do you see how the Seneca have... yesterday I was wearing the Seneca headdress. I had a single feather with nothing else on the top of my head. That was a Seneca, which means rock. It was showing you I was the rock. The Coyoga is a single feather, but it's veering to the right, slightly uphill. The Onondaga is also a rock of the Seneca, but it has a fissure in it, which points to the bottom right. The Oneida is 2 towers, baby. And they got 2 main towers, a Joaquin and a Boaz on top of their head. The Mohawk have 3, but they're aligned vertically as you move from the front to the back, just like a Mohawk haircut. And then you have the Tuscarora, which were the newest tribe. And one of the reasons why they were the newest tribe meant they didn't get to wear feathers, or they felt they didn't wear feathers. You could argue either way for how they felt. But they put other stuff in their hair. Probably sage, probably some parsley, probably some rosemary, probably some thyme. And so you see that the differences that the Iroquois were distinguishing with each other were not actually in hair. It was in headdress. In fact, you could argue that they were using feathers because their hair was all the same. Right? Their hair was all the same. So the concept of someone having different hair than you would be a little bit bigger than you might think, especially when you've been living with people that have the same hair the whole time. So this snakes in hair, this entangled hair thing, kind of has a white connotation, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, there's some white, something going on there. Something's going on there. Now here's where it gets really cool, guys. Join or die is an expression of early America. The idea that if you do not join the Union, you will die. And you and I like to think that this is what was told to the South. That white guys from the North were telling white guys from the South, if you do not join, then you will die. And that's not what happened. See, one of the biggest issues, one of the biggest problems with the Haudenosaunee was they were so all-accepting. Fuckers, they were. They were so all accepting. In fact, the 5 major points of Turtle Island, at the crest of that turtle's back was some of the most deeply entrenched loyalists when it came to fighting and removing people from this land. The second most was actually down here where I'm at in Koala with the Cherokee. And that both these people were adamant about allowing integration of the twisted hairs and just keeping the peace and maintaining the Confederacy of Turtle Island. And this ultimately was their downfall, because when you're dealing with a twisted mind, the idea of Wetiko, technically, I believe, is the idea of an outer psyche. That you end up with another level of psyche that forms the bubble around your ego, and this is deception or deceit. And the Indians determined this extra level as ego as like creepy, double-sided, dark black magic, able to kill from afar, backstabbing. All these things were, I think, a direct result of psychological development. We had a lot of Wetiko. We had a lot of brutality. We had a head start, I think, not on brutality in the physical sense, but in the mental sense. The idea of propaganda, the idea of lies, was unleashed at an earlier time, and you have a much virginal kind of soil over here. And so what you end up with, what we call smallpox, is actually just psychic warfare. The idea of someone's ego being so strong that they're able to lie is really just a whole other realm of calories. It's a whole other realm. You're not a seed gatherer, you're a meat eater. You have so much more of a psychic bubble that you're able to penetrate someone else's immune system and give them what we call smallpox. That this is just truly psychological warfare that has nothing else to do with just how you got here, how long you've been dealing with lies, how long you've been raised in a culture that favors the twisted nature of society. And this is why so many of these Indians said that they stood crooked, that the white men stood crooked. And it wasn't just their hair. You're going to find that back then in that time, if you're looking at white culture, if you're looking at Indian culture, if you're looking at Mormon culture, even if you're looking at Chinese immigrants that were coming over, there was a big fascination with hair. I don't just mean how it looked. Hair told you about your personality. Doctors would meet and have autopsies on bodies and write descriptions to each other saying, yes, a criminal will have a beard that is splotchy. Criminals will have beards that are splotchy. This is what we used to think. The style of your hair, the amount that it raised from your head, was foretelling your criminology. Your destiny, all these things were determined by these things. So hair was a bigger deal than we think. And when you think about the pomp and the circumstance of the powdered wig and all the other stuff, it starts to make sense. Tadahoe was an evil sorcerer who the people feared greatly. He was very fearsome to look at, as his mind and body was so tangled. The snakes writhed in his hair. Tadahoe loved the lawlessness and wars that entrenched the lands around him. Any talks of peace or living together in harmony were quickly halted by him. Who does this sound like? Who does this sound like? Could it be an invading entangled hair people from another land? John Washington Conotocaurius is the great paternal grandfather of George Washington, as we've said. During a planned parley, our history says that during a planned parley with disgruntled opposition, the Maryland militia killed at least 5 parlaying Doeg and Susquehannock warriors. That's what the Mount Vernon history records say. I don't think they're trying to hide things. I think this is just how you're going to, if you own Mount Vernon and you've got an asphalt parking lot, you're going to fucking say this, okay? If you want everyone to walk into an air-conditioned building and put on a headset and listen to ancient history, you're gonna hear that. But if you ask the Powhatan will say, "Oh, John Washington, yeah, that fucker was Conotocaurius." And it wasn't 5 leaders; it was actually 5 chiefs. It was 5 of the top chiefs through what we would call the Virginia colonies, which they did not. It was the land of Powhatan, and along that river, Powhatan means ones who dwell along rivers. That's probably not their original name either. In fact, some of us mistake Powhatan for a single person. The same way that we mistake Tadaho for a single person, we do the same thing with Powhatan. And actually, the 5 nations of Virginia, the 5 major leaders, met with Conotocaurius along the river for parley. He sent word and bribes to all of them saying, we must have peace. In order for us to have peace, please come and meet. All of us will meet in this central location and we will discuss things. And they did. And Washington and his men murdered everybody who showed up in a canoe. I'm not trying to tell you how dare they. I just want you to know what happened. That's probably what happened. It probably wasn't just 5 sort of war leaders. It's probably like 5 really, really big deals. And I say that because it was recognized who this was. They knew who this was. This was Conotocaurius, and he was the village burner. He was one who destroys villages, one who destroys the peace. And that sounds a lot like Tadaho. Tadaho is George Washington. But not the George Washington, the president, the great paternal grandfather of George Washington, John Washington, the person who acquired the 8,000 acres that you and I called Mount Vernon. His George Washington estate was some of the primest Powhatan Indian land you could ever imagine. And the 5 chiefs that showed up that day, that's when Washington won his keep. I own this land now. This story makes a lot more sense if you think about it. For his efforts suppressing Native Americans, the Susquehannock gave John the nickname of Town Destroyer. Some 8 decades later, 8 decades, okay, 80 years later, during the French Indian War, the Seneca would bestow the same title upon Washington's great-grandson George. They recognized him. They recognized him as the same. They recognized him as the same. He was the same entity. He was snakes in hair, village destroyer. So you can kind of see that if you think about this as like a singular person, Washington is just the same creature. And one of the things that Indians do that you and I might not have understand is that if you're someone that they don't like, but you're like a badass, they're still going to give you props. They're going to be like, that dude's a badass. I mean, we ripped his skin off, twisted his nipples, made him scream, but he was a badass. We have a lot of respect for him. I mean, we tortured and raped his family, but we got a lot of respect for that guy. And as I was doing his wife, I was telling her, I'm really proud of your husband. It's like, it's such a different psychology, isn't it? Because now we're just like, oh, if you're my enemy, then I have to take it personally. And back then it wasn't that way. Back then it was almost as if we have the opportunity to meet. This is an opportunity. The energy that we have for each other to want to kill each other is what brings us together. We are sworn an oath in a way. And if I defeat you, I actually gain more honor by propping you up. I would become your biggest fan because I'd be walking around going, yeah, I killed this guy. And I like got his skull on my head, and I like pull his head up. It's me. Surprise. This dude was real badass. Yeah, it really took me a long time to kill this guy. This is a wandering church. It's a talisman, right? It's a talisman. It's a scalp. A scalp could be a talisman. What do you think the tail is man on head? Tail is man. Tail is man. Tail is man. Where do you think we got that from? Okay, I made that up. Don't write that down. Don't write that down. I told you everything. I tell a lie every show, and that could be the lie that I tell you that. But anyway, later in a letter to Andrew Montour on October 10th, 1755, George Washington, this is the great grandson of John Washington, says, the first president that you and I know so well, says, recommend me kindly to our good friend Monacatutha and others. Tell them how happy it would make Conotocaurius to have an opportunity of taking them by the hand at Fort Cumberland, and how glad he would be to treat them as brothers of our great king beyond the waters, George Washington. George is playing politics. George is integrating himself in the culture, adopting their methods of trade, adopting their methods of religion, of philosophy and psychology, and using it to wage war against them. He doesn't have a king, he has a chief. He has a leader. Yes, he says king, but he says great king. He speaks of this many times. You and I share a common chief. You just haven't met him yet, is what George Washington would say. He's an insurgent on Turtle Island. And in order for him to be an insurgent, he must practice their ways. And so our American flag, everything that you think about America, is the leftover remnants of that conversation. Let's look at a few things that George Washington did. 1753, Washington was sent as a British diplomat to the Iroquois Confederacy. So he travels up the Ohio River and he says, I am here for peace from the from the British crown. My chief in Great Britain, my chief George, King George, has sent me to help you. So he's seen in the Native Americans' eyes as a representative of the British. Okay, and 17 years later, Washington meets with the Iroquois chiefs again while visiting the Ohio River Valley. Everything's fine. 1775, people start to come to Washington because they start to recognize that he does represent the British. So Oneidas come in a faction to meet with him. And in 1777, another meeting. In 1779, another meeting. All these people are recognizing that George is the representative of King George, that Little George and Big George are the same. These people with snakes in their hair have their own tribe, and their tribe is simply across the water. But then in 1779, Washington starts attacking British. Not only does he attack the British, but he's actually attacking the Iroquois nation because part of them were aligned. So the concept that someone would wage dark war, that he would use black magic, is exactly encompassed in George Washington's interactions with the Iroquois. Like it's right here. So this isn't a stretch, what I'm saying to you. In fact, if you consider that in 1753, again, I'll repeat this, 1753, Washington was aligned with the British. 1779, he wasn't. So in a span of 26 years, Washington was able to effectively cut the Iroquois Confederacy in fucking half. In half. Now, right here, you're seeing the beaded contracts of the 6 nations of Iroquois. And I've shown you which 4 aligned with the British, the Mohawk, the Onondaga, the Seneca, and the Cayuga. Now, this is 6 nations, not 5. And you're going to see that later. Keep in mind that the Tuscarora joined later. So he was able to cut in half this confederacy, this made up of 5. He was able to insert himself into these 5, convince them that he was one of their own, and then he preached war and pushed violence when they were so close to peace, or so they thought. This is the Hiawatha Belt. I mean, this is the Tadahoe Belt, excuse me. I'm about to show you the Hiawatha Belt. This belt was created at the beginning of the Confederacy of Peace. We do not know when, or Iroquois do not know when this is created, but it's long before the French, Dutch, or English. And it's this idea of the Tree of Peace with 14 diamonds, not 13, through the middle, representing the 14 chiefs at Onondaga. This is the first tree. The great white pine is the center of the Iroquois Confederacy tree. And this great white pine is sometimes referred to as he who is more equal than the rest. All of us are equal, but one of us is equal first. And that's the white pine. And this white pine came out of a necessity to keep peace. Because even though everyone else, even though all these other chiefs were into the idea of peace, it fell apart. Why did it fall apart? Because of one guy. Who was that one guy? White man, Tadahoe. All the leaders from the nations came to Tadodaho. There, with the strength of all the minds of peace, they were able to overcome Tadahoe's sorcery to continue their plans of peace. Tadaho began to realize how strong the words of the peacemaker are. Washington began to realize how strong the words of the peacemaker are. Washington then explained his plan to Tadaho, that Tadaho would, the peacemaker, the Hiawatha in this case, is the peacemaker. Hiawatha is the representation of the tribe. And so the tribe is explaining to Washington that Washington would watch over the council fire of the entire Confederacy. That's what Iroquois is telling Tadaho, i.e. Washington. Dude, we will put you in charge of this entire place. All you got to do is stop war. You will be in charge of it all. We will recreate this council and make you more equal than the rest if you just stop the peace, if you just stop war. And that you can guide the council with your thoughts, and we will keep you in the center because we think by keeping you in the center, this will make you more controllable. And the peacemaker is said, it's written in the writing, that they were trying to comb the snakes from Tadahoe's hair. Did you hear that? They were trying to comb the snakes from Tadahoe's hair. Guys, join or die. Possessed by a union, the Iroquois were trying to pull the snakes from his hair. I don't know of anyone else who's told you that Tadaho and George Washington are the same. I'm just pointing that out. I don't know. Maybe I'm full of shit, or this is just an insight into our history. We can compassionate our history by taking 10 hours in a joyful way and just reading, just drinking every page, and remembering all the enthusiasm I have for all the other facts and combining them together. And I do that in a house that has all my books in a place and all my computers and notes in a place, and I can write these things and write the code and show this stuff and bring it to you because this is what you guys allow me to do. It's really powerful that we can compassionate our history like this. Even if you disagree, I think that I'm making a pretty good case that it looks like Tadaho and Washington are the same. And I'm just taking time to say, I don't know anyone else that does that. So it's not just me wanting, I just really think I've got a product that no one else is making. That's all I'm saying. These 5 were splintered apart. And they were splintered apart into these ways. Look at the Iroquois Confederacy belt. It's got 5 sections. One of them is a great white tree. This is a desperate attempt to negotiate peace with people who have snakes in their hair. He no longer thought of jealousy, anger, revenge, and war, but now thought of peace and love for the people. This is what Washington allowed the Iroquois to believe, as they gave him this great honor, and that great honor was given to him under the auspice that we could have some peace. Famous figure, excuse me for butchering this, Jikonhasahe, the Mother of Nations, an elderly woman, when the peacemakers approached her to explain the mission to bring peace throughout the land, she explained that the tactic that you would need to do is you need to take these antler horns and you need to put them on George Washington's head. You need to go up to snakes in his head and grant him king. This was a crazy idea. She had the idea. She said, the only thing left to do is to make him the king. Explain to him how a confederacy works, show him how our government works, and put these antlers on him, and that this is my best take on what we could do to stay alive. And it was fucking brilliant. It was fucking brilliant. It really was. It's a last-ditch effort, and it was brilliant. Did it work? No. But it probably made things a lot better when it comes to how much violence is on the field. You know what I mean? Guys, thank you so much for the super chat. Seriously, I appreciate this. Thanks for letting me bitch and complain about the budget. But yeah, I just love doing this. And so if I see that it's going to have to go away for 6 months, I'm just like, fuck, man. This was actually a quote. I'm going to read you this because I think it's related to chemtrails. Stringing wampum and seeking someone who should understand the 13-string ceremony of condolence and take away his grief by the spell of the wampum. Finally, he came to the territory of the Mohawk, where Dekanawada, had converted the entire nation. Dekanawida chanted the words that have since been part of the Iroquois requickening ceremony. Listen to this. I wipe away tears from thy face, using the white fawn skin of pity. I make it daylight for thee. I beautify the sky. Now shalt thou do thy thinking in peace. This is chemtrails. This is anxiety. This is a last-ditch effort to appeal to the ending of anxiety. Afterwards, Hiawatha joined Dekanawada in composing the laws of the Great Peace and the Peace Hymn. The vitriol that the white men bring convinced the Iroquois that we would love some peace right now. We would love some peace. And this is what vitriol does. It makes you understand what was important. Probably the great unifier of all the nations that weren't necessarily getting along before would have been Tadaho, Conotocaurius, the town burner, the founding father George Washington. Washington's coat of arms, which is still seen today in D.C., guys, you could say it's a coincidence. Keep in mind, mythology and reality are a spectrum, so I think this hits on every level. I think that when you look at the fact that this is supposed to be Washington's coat of arms from England, I think that it really shows you, A, how history is just written into the record, regardless of if it's true, and or, I really mean that, and or, B, the fractal nature of truth that just keeps popping up on the field. Because what I see are 5 nations. 3 are considered favorable because they aligned with Washington, and 2 are not, and they will be buried into the fucking ground. This coat of arms is war. It is how I will take over Turtle Island. It is my philosophy emboldened in 2 red and white stripes and 3 stars. That we will favor those who like me, who approve of Conotocaurius, and we will bury the ones who don't. Washington's personal flag, before the Union came about, before we started ruminating about 13 colonies, guys, before we even could count that high, when it came to colonial states, Washington had a blue banner with white stars. And they were 6-pointed stars, not 5. And these stars were Turtle Island. This is a Native American for all intents and purposes. George Washington wore his hair long. He was a stone-cold killer. He understood exactly what it took to occupy 8,000 acres of the most prime land in Virginia. This man was a warrior. This man knew how to overthrow through regulation. He joined the Confederacy. He made a name for himself in the Confederacy. He claimed to be president of the Confederacy. He took the concept of a long house and moved it to Washington, D.C. He built a long house for everyone to meet. This was an overthrow of the Confederacy using its own instruments against it. This is propaganda. This is lies in a world that doesn't use lies as much as we do. Deceit is a very advanced act. We've discussed this. The psychology of conceit requires a mind that can remember 2 timelines simultaneously for an unprescribed amount of time towards an unprescribed amount of people that you've told the lie to. Therefore, lying is a very expensive luxury. A very expensive luxury. And if you're going to bring lying into the warfare department, you are going to win if you were up against a people that have not invented gunpowder yet in the sense of psychic warfare. So it's not even close how this happens. It's not even close. Hiawatha was sent to confront Atotarho and remove the snakes from his hair. Hiawatha persuaded Atotarho to support the Confederacy of the 5 Nations. Hiawatha suggested that Atotarho become the Grand Chief and that the official seat of their new government would be on Onondaga land. What is Onondaga land? You're about to find out. Atotarho agreed to this compromise, and the morning wars came to an end. The term Tadahoe has been used for centuries to refer to the chief chosen to preside over the Grand Council of the Iroquois League. The name Atotarho, also known in Tadahoe, means first among equals. It is the name of the chief, first among equals. Now, there are 50 Sachem. Yeah, we have 50 states. And the Iroquois had 50 Sachem. 50 Sachem were 50 chiefs from different regions that were all recognized as a part of the Iroquois Confederacy. 50. It was 50. Again, how do you want to take that number? Is it a coincidence? Is it a sign of conscious intent? To me, it's a fractal. It's morphic resonance. It's built into the soil, just as we discussed with the concept of how there's the Temple Mayor, right, in the bicameral house. It's in the soil, guys. It's in the programming. It's in the instantiation of Adam. If you're going to be Adam in this place, you're going to speak Creole. If you're in the South, you're going to have a Boston accent. You're from the Northeast, yada, yada, yada. So, too, are you going to think in terms like this? That Turtle Island is going to influence you in some way. Atotarho was a member of the Grand Council, which was made of 50 Shishem. His name became the distinctive title for the office of presidency of the Shishem. He was the first president of the Confederacy, not America. Do you see what just happened? This is why someone like Candace Owens will literally try and start a doxing site, like a corporate doxing site, where you pay her money and she will hunt down the people that have caused you harm, and she will dox them publicly for a service. That Candace Owens started that, and then the next day she's a conservative and she's preaching about God. It's a new kind of gunpowder. It's the gunpowder of lies. And if you haven't been raised on that stuff, you're ill-equipped for this kind of war. He was said to have matted and spiky hair. This is pretty much going to be every single person that's not a Native American. He was said to have a twisted body and could kill his enemies from a distance without seeing them. This is smallpox. But James, viruses aren't real. Guys, this is resonance. And all you anti-viral crowd guys, I got to tell you something. You're being mistreated by people that are pretending to fight for you. There are people right now that will not answer my questions, that will not address simple things like extracellular vesicles and all the other stuff, and they're killing your belief because they're not willing to stand and say, this is what I believe. This is the same kind of psychic warfare. You're going to lose. Why are you going to lose? Because I've just put more reading in. That's it. I just have more explanations for why this would have to work, why there'd have to be resonance, why there'd have to be some kind of hole in something for this to spread, because the psychic power of someone who can outlie you is going to be felt, and you're going to be sick from that if you're not willing to cope or you're not able to find the right posture in the presence of that, because this is real life energy. It's real life stuff. It's radiation. It's human radiation. And if you lack the epidermis, the psychic epidermis to defend from that, it's going to fuck you up. And when it fucks you up, it's going to display itself somewhere on your body. It's going to look like sores. It's going to burn when you pee. Whatever, it's going to look like yellow fever. That you are going to have a problem psychically handling this change. And if you send a bunch of people that have a lot more psychic energy to a place that has a lot less psychic energy, there's going to be what's called a genocide. There's going to be a psychocide. We should start calling it psychocide. It's what we should do. Notice how the Pentagon has 5 branches of military until Trump added 6. Notice how the Iroquois Confederacy began with 5 nations and added 6. See, I don't think Trump studies the Iroquois Confederacy. I just think that America has this symbology built in. And the symbology is going to express itself all the time, which means that just as the Iroquois Confederacy fell because none of their people were able to see through the lies, that you and I are suffering that same fractal right now. Some of you aren't suffering, and I say great. In fact, I think that it would be quite hard for people to admit that if you were to look back at that time, that you would see that most people during what we call the American Revolution had no idea what was happening. All they saw was there were certain psychopaths that were killing each other. And then we're just going to stay here and mind our own business. In fact, one of the biggest problems that George Washington had was the Iroquois Confederacy was a land of peace. And every time he'd go into the Ohio Valley, he'd find British soldiers and Americans, and what he thought were Americans, people that he thinks should be fighting for his side, just living there in peace. Just like, oh, we're fucking building a longhouse. Yeah, we just built a bunk bed. Look at this. A bunk bed. We're smoking tobacco. They got something called hemp here. We were stoned as fuck, George. You want to sit down? He's like, no. No, I don't want to sit down. I have snakes in my hair, says George. You see how this looks? So it's a very different person. It's a person with snakes in his hair. Guys, this isn't even about racism. If you look at the Cherokee, 1/3 of the Cherokee was white. White dudes. White dudes. 1/3 of the Cherokee was white. White, that's a lot. That's a lot of white people. Iroquois, same way. This concept we have about racism is literally the opposite. The biggest problem that the people that were trying to destroy Turtle Island, the biggest problem they had was integration. These fuckers are getting along. Everybody's like, oh, welcome, come over here. Oh, the Cherokee were like, not only are you welcome, we built a special tribe called the fucking Longhairs. Just for you. Just for you. And you can come integrate with us. We just ask you to be a long hair because that's where you're going to learn all your fables, all the tales that we need. And that's going to indoctrinate you and give you enough information where you can do some sashiming with some of our sashaysies, right? Some of the ladies getting some sashim action over here. It's like, bring it. Bring it. We want you all, says the Iroquois Confederacy. We want you all. It's a very different tactic when you don't have that psychic layer. This long hair thing is it's a stigma that goes throughout history. If you remember, in Jamestown, in Roanoke colonies, long hair was wrong. In fact, you could be killed if you had long hair. You weren't allowed to negotiate with the natives. Long hair was seen as a sign that you had fallen off. Oh my God, Portofino, thank you so much, dude. You already helped Portofino, but thank you so much. I really appreciate that. But you already have this stigma about hair when early settlers are coming, and that disappears. The Puritan settlers that came dropped the idea that hair is a sign of holiness because they just could not hold it any longer. People were deserting in droves. I think the Roanoke colony disappeared. Excuse me, I think they integrated. There are ghost stories about the mysterious thing that happened to the Roanoke colony. It's not mysterious, guys. Guys, if you're going to fucking go to a new land and create a 3-acre parcel and enforce the most rigid puritanical ideas inside that 3-acre parcel and make everyone shave their fucking head and tell everyone, do not go out there and trade with that big-breasted Indian woman that's like, hey, have you ever tried corn? You're going to fucking lose the civilization. It's not going to be sustainable. And so when we come back after 5 years and you notice everyone's gone, dude, it's not a mystery. It's not a fucking mystery. Follow the corn. Follow the bosoms. They will lead you to Kuala, the Cherokee capital of the world, and you're going to see all those people there. 1/3 of the Cherokee was white. 1/3. Why? Because Turtle Island's like, dude, I will take all you bitches. I will take all you. I love me some people on my back. It makes my back feel better. Oh, can one of you go down to Key West and oh, that feels good. Oh yeah. Oh yes. I'm knocking my foot like a dog on the ground. Oh, you're getting me on the Key West. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good, right? So this is a little interesting way to look at what was really happening. Doth not nature teach you that if a man hath long hair, it is a shame unto him? 1 Corinthians 2. No, that didn't work in Turtle Island. It did not work. This also happened with the Chinese immigrants, which we talked about. I'm going to skip this for now. Here's the long hair clan, Cherokee. And a Gilholi in Cherokee was one of the 7 clans of the Cherokee people. The clan was known for its elaborate hairstyles and proud twisting walk. James, you just... James, wait, go back. Okay. James, there's that word twisting again. Yeah, go on. But James, you said that way up north in the Iroquois that they called people twisty hair. And that Tadahoe means entangled or twisted. Yeah. Keep going. What else you got? Well, but James, that means that Anagoli means long hairs or twisters, which means that the Cherokee were also saw this twisted hair and that they used that to integrate people into their tribe, which means that all this was happening all at once. It's like, yeah, you got it. It was all happening at once. And meanwhile, the Iroquois are like, let's go give him a belt. Let's make him into a white tree. We're going to call him Big White Pine. Hey, George, we're not going to call you Conotocaurius anymore. We're going to call you Big White Pine. He's like, hey, Big White Pine. I like it. I mean, it's still going to fucking kill you, but I fucking like it, says George. Why? Because he is Conotocaurius. He's fucking Conotocaurius, that's why. This is the original definition of good. Good meaning one who fucking walks in the village and says, I'm the goodest, so you're going to suck my dick, I'm going to steal your horse, and you're going to feed me, right? So you had a clan that was waiting for this. And check this out. What are the characteristics of this clan? In other words, what is the clan known for more than ever? Members were considered peacekeepers, peace chiefs. In fact, people from this clan were often prisoners of war, orphans of other tribes. and others with no Cherokee tribe were often adopted into this clan. Peace chief. Do you understand that if you have been raised and given a gun and you're brought over here to kill Native Americans, and if you desert, you are a peace chief? That you're the dude that's like mastered your own tribe because you have your own conception of peace, therefore you create your own nation, becoming your own fucking big kahuna. And the Cherokee recognized this and they wanted this. They're like, oh my God, the deserters, you guys are like the best guys ever. Not only do you know their language, you know how to fight, but you want peace. You're exactly who we want. Here, take my daughter, go bang her in the back, let's fucking get this done. And you have an integration. This is an immigration policy before the Statue of Liberty was even here, fellas. Before it was. So the long hairs. Look at that. Amazing coincidence, is it not? We're still fighting these hair wars today. This woman's been told her boy has to cut his hair. ACLU's taken this fight. This was last year. Cutting Logan's hair is not an option. Logan's hair is a part of him in our religious practice. His long hair carries his spirit. Haircutting cycles are part of our tribal ceremony. Logan is a grass dancer. His dance to Native American powwows all over the United States is part of his regalia and serves as a key element to the type of dancer he is. Without his hair, he would lose his spirit and connection to his dance. Can you see how this is so much more, this concept of Tadahoe? It fits so much more. So, you get into like Mormon stuff. Jeez. Guys, if you start looking back at like the history, we're heading back into the Clovis period, right? So if you guys don't know what Clovis is, it's just dudes who cut rocks a very specific way, okay? Through the Archaic period, through the Woodland period, through Adena, through Hopewell Indians, right? Through the Woodlands, for the Mississippian culture, that all of these things have these truths built in. That we found these same sort of parallels in the same sort of places. Nephi is, believe it or not, an Egyptian word that the Mormons came over and started hanging out with the Indians, and the Indians were like, well, Nephi is our, and they're like, wait, did you say Nephi? It's like, yeah, Nephi. It's like, oh my God, we have a Nephi. It's like, really? We have a Nephi. It's like, well, we have a Nephi. And you know what the fucking Indian said? Yeah, well, our history's written on this golden tablet. I didn't say the Mormons said that. I didn't say that. The Adena culture. The people that told the Mormons about Nephi, they said, yeah, we got a Nephi. It's kind of embarrassing, they say. What do you mean embarrassing? Well, the history of this chief is written on a golden tablet. We buried it in the hills up north. And would you know what's funny? We can't find the hill. We forgot. Our people forgot. So we have the sacred history, we have the oral history, and we have a receipt. We have a gold tablet. It's buried in one of the mounds, but we can't find which mound. Now you got Joseph Smith. He's like, whoa. What did you fucking say? You say you guys are missing a golden tablet which had your Egyptian ancestors on it? And the Indians are like, yeah. Guys, can you smell what the Mormons cooking? Can you? Can you? Go into a stump and find those golden tablets? I can't find them either. Why? Because they're sacred Indian relics. That's why. They're sacred Indian relics. This is mythology that belongs to everybody. Just like Conotocaurius belongs to everybody. George Washington was not Conotocaurius. His great paternal grandfather was Conotocaurius, but George Washington incorporates that name too because he's the same undulating dolphin rising above the surface. Rise up, gather round, rock this place to the ground, and burning up, go for broke. Let the town go up in smoke, town burner, town burner. Now, something else interesting is the psychological effect of red and white stripes is often associated with increased energy, excitement, attention-grabbing power, and a sense of action or movement due to the strong visual contrast between the two colors, with red primarily signifying passion, energy, and sometimes aggression, while white representing purity, cleanliness, and neutrality, which can further emphasize red's intensity. Further research on color and intellectual performance, viewing red prior to a challenging cognitive task has been shown to undermine performance. It's very Dexter, is it not? James is about to enter into the speculation realm. Using my power of compassion, let's go back to the Powhatan Island. John Washington is waiting for the 5 most powerful Powhatan chiefs. I want you to picture that Washington is thinking about how to intimidate and win this. He knows that this is the make or break point for the rest of his family. For the 8,000 acres that are about to be his, this is the time, this is the place. What if I told you that Washington showed up in war paint? What if I told you that Washington wore a headdress of white feathers, and every other feather he dipped in the blood of a guinea? That he slaughtered the wildest, most exotic bird he could find and used the blood of that bird to decorate every other feather and wore this as a headdress because the natives that he had aligned with gave him the story of Mixcoatl. They told him about the oldest mythos in Turtle Island. And that he, just like Trump, places orange makeup on his face. This is a symbol, a salute to Jupiter, if you don't know this, that in Rome, when a Roman emperor came into the gates, if he wore the red makeup on his face, he was allowed to go to the temple of Jupiter and sacrifice a human in the streets of Rome. This was considered not okay, unless he had the red face. And you end up with these similar kind of war rituals that are more built on dilation. And so the very birth of Uncle Sam is this red and white rage. This Mixcoatl, which is the mixing of death to produce life. The great compost heap, before we had invented the word compost, is expressed in this figure of Mixcoatl. So when I picture George Washington on the shores waiting for the Powhatan, he's fucking just lit. He's dilated to piss. This is going to be the end of his life or the end of theirs. This is a portal, a gauntlet into a new place. Not only does he secure his name, but his name rocks Turtle Island from one shore to the other. And I think the only way it could do that is for this menacing mythology to be displaced in this one little wigwam on the side of a river in Jamestown, Virginia, or what was called Jamestown, Virginia by them. And they didn't even know the name of the place. They didn't even know the name of the Indians that were coming. They just called them river dwellers or Powhatan, right? So this is the war of mythologies. And it's pretty obvious to know who won. It's pretty obvious. It's not the first time where people that we think are the good guys won and the people we think are the bad guys. I mean, people, you know what I mean. Where the good guys lost, but we hear that the good guys won, and that's not what happened at all. Now we get to the Confederacy. Was not able to finish the slide, so I'm just going to have to do it verbally, but I want you to realize that the Iroquois the Constitution and the American Constitution are the same. I'm going to give you some similarities here. You can look this up yourself. The entire verbiage of the Iroquois Confederacy is found on the web. Sorry I don't have it on the chart, but just Google it. Google it and read. It's a short read. It'll take you maybe 30 minutes. 30 minutes is almost an hour. And I've read this Constitution maybe 5 times since I've been doing this stream. Each time I learn a little bit more, I gain a little bit more insight, and I just want to thank you for the time that you give me to decode these things. The Iroquois Constitution had a bicameral house. The American Constitution had a bicameral house. The Iroquois Constitution had a legislative body of senior and junior senators. The American Constitution has a legislative body of senior and junior senators. These senior and junior senators in the Iroquois Confederacy had a council of elders who did not bring up new legislation, but instead simply voted on whether the legislation that the youngerlings came up with was valid or not. And the American Constitution has a Supreme Court. It's the same system. George Washington wasn't inventing a new government. He was taking over the one that was here. And the only way he could take over the ones was here was to adopt the colors, adopt the mythology, adopt the names, adopt the ritual, adopt the Constitution. So the Longhouse, the Onondaga, means one who lives on hill. And Capitol Hill is where the leading tribe, the tribe that was added to the Iroquois Confederacy in order to bring the peace, and that this is the birthplace of the Longhouse being moved to the White House in Washington, D.C. Now, everything about these two was the same, and it's not a coincidence. Ben Franklin went to the Iroquois Confederacy several times. He sat in their lodge and watched them. Ben Franklin did not wear a wig. It could be a coincidence. It could be that Ben Franklin was so fascinated by this people that he realized that wearing a wig was the last thing he was going to be able to do to get in. It wasn't that they didn't decorate themselves. It was that if you think about how deeply ingrained hair is, if you're wearing fake hair, it's gonna sting. You're gonna feel a little bit of prejudice. I personally think that this is why Ben Franklin doesn't wear wigs. It's also, I think, why Ben Franklin was suggesting the idea of a turkey rather than an eagle, because turkey is a more peaceful animal, right? The national bird. But the rest of the people wanted this Iroquois eagle. Remember the jaguar warrior eagles? So the eagle isn't even our invention either. Now, there's one crucial difference between the Iroquois Confederacy and the American Constitution. Crucial difference. One tiny little thing. Everyone voted the same. Junior senators would say, hey, I have an idea, let's do this. The senior citizens would say, that's a horrible idea, or we agree. And then finally the Supreme Court would come in and say, yeah, let's make that a law or let's not. There's one difference. When you start your legislation in the lowest house, everyone has to agree. Wait, what do you mean everyone, James? Everyone has to agree. But James, no one in Congress agrees. I mean, think how many laws would get passed if everyone had... Wow, James. Yeah, wow. Yeah, every day, 3 new laws are passed on average. Every year, our law of codes gets bigger and bigger. I've tried to research how many pages the codex is of every single American statute. I can't find it. It's too big. There's too many volumes. There's so many volumes that no one even knows how many pages it is. We have so many fucking laws, and we have so many laws that we literally pass 3 a day by average. And if you think about a unanimous system, that would be impossible. It would be impossible. About the only thing you're going to get passed out of that is a fucking Bill of Rights. It's about the only thing. Well, James, but that means just one person, if they're unhappy, that they could stall all of government. I'm like, yeah. Well, James, that would lead to one person stopping every single thing. It's like, no, I wouldn't. Well, what do you mean? You just don't use government. But what if you wanted to build a bridge? You'd fucking build a bridge. But if one person didn't agree, then everyone would come build a bridge except for that one guy. That's all. That's how government works. This is called unanimous consent, bitches. Unanimous consent. And the reason why the Iroquois Confederacy had it is because they did not have enough of a Wetiko bubble to think that they should be subservient to a majority. The majority is an egregore. This is a huge clue because the Native Americans did not see the egregore. The Native Americans did not see the egregore. If they saw it, it was not given such a prominent place. It is our new government that decided, no, we want majority rule. We want an imaginary plasmatic being that no one can touch, see, or feel. We want that person to have the final rules, and that's what majoritarianism is. Majoritarianism is the belief that the individual is awful unless he has consensus. If you believe that the individual has no rational being raising or creating any kind of laws, but only if he has someone else who agrees, then you've just established that the individual is moot. And this is Wetiko. This is so Wetiko that I think that if I was in Iroquois times listening to someone explain to me that their government works off majority rule, I would say, but where are you? What happened to you? And if I spoke African and you read my book Black Eye Club, you would know that they are Zaru Zaru. They are the transparent ones. The white chalk you see through. These people have used a spell of invisibility to not claim all the scalps they take. That they take them for someone else and say thank you for your service. Thank you so much, Carmen Smith Stutter. Thank you for great lessons. Thank you. I appreciate it. Really do, guys. I love what I do. It's a very small threshold, I think. And I just want to keep doing this because this stuff is freaking lit. It's fascinating me. What fascinates me the most is because the more I study Mesoamerican and American history, the more I realize that the two-party system was here long before you and I got to this place. And if the two-party system was here long before we got to this place, it's not a system that's purely bureaucratic, that's purely written by some, what's that dude's name? God, it's so great I can't even remember his name. George Soros type. It's not even going to be something like that. Now government becomes something much more fractally built into the minerals and the water. It's in the water you drink. And when you drink from the Ohio River, you are ingesting these ideas of Mixcoatl, of Turtle Island, of these things, of Conotocaurius. This place is so much bigger than everyone's lying. This place is so much bigger than everything's broken. This is not broken. This isn't lying. This is an organic fractal that's unwinding and jizzing all over the place. It's exploding everywhere. Juices are going everywhere. We are intermingling with each other. We're learning these histories from each other. The very people that we killed and murdered we're now worshiping for what they had to say. This is regulation on a grand scale. This is a giant chemical equation that's slowly volatilizing itself into congruency. This is the melting pot of Amuraka, my friends. And it's right here. It's right here. These are the same constitutions. The only thing different is that we abandoned the individual. And when we abandon the individual, we end up with this place. Now, I believe, and I've said this before, that the future of, sorry, just checking my slide. The future of, actually, let me tell you this first. The name Washington, the etymology, has English origins and derived from the old English phrase Wasa's people, from the town of Wasa. This name may have come from the Old English personal name meaning Hiawatha or Hiawatha. It's got this tone of Hiawatha in it. The name may have come from the Old English word wasa, inga, and tun, which means hunting or meadow or low ground or dun, a hill or town. And Onondaga is the place on the hill, my people. Onondaga is the place on the hill where Hiawatha went and begged Tadahoe to lay down your snakes, that he was begged by Hiawatha. The roots of Washington himself, the very origin of his species, was conflicted, that they were looking at Washington battling between two demons. At one point he's aligned with the British, at another he's not. At one point he's speaking Algonquin. At one point he's merging with the Iroquois and coming to their system and learning the place. He's wearing the headdress, he's using the language, and then all of a sudden now he's conflicted with it, and they're watching a struggle that's taking place. And maybe the mythology of the struggle is actually more about an entire people, that it's not just a singular man, but you and I like to compress our mythology, and we compress our mythology by placing it into a singular person. And that person is the founder of our country, George Washington. George Washington did not find America. He founded the Iroquois Confederacy. He was the first great white pine in that tree. And if you look at the Iroquois flag, you're seeing the stars and stripes rising from the mythology. We've covered this before when we covered the Civil War. I once showed you guys something blew me away. It was right before the show. I was like, wait a minute, why is there 13 stars on this flag? Do you remember that? That we actually showed this flag that had it was, you had Washington's flag, but then you had this other flag, and this was before we had 13 colonies, and this is why. This is why, because the number 13 was such an intrinsic number to Turtle Island. Keep in mind that if you had a war and you wanted to have peace, that you would go through a psychological ritual called the 13 strings of reconciliation, where you would reconcile with all 13 strings, which is meant to represent the 13 parts of Turtle Island, the 13 different places on its shell, and that you wanting peace would have to think in 13 different ways to consider empathy. This is the base root when it comes to building compassion right out of the soil when you don't have a lot of calories to think. It's a tricky time. It's a tricky time in our evolution. This is the image they show you of Tadaho. And I think you can see that smoking the pipe, the smoke coming from both ends, wrapped in the snakes of the Union, this concept of a conglomerate majoritarian snake that's wrapped itself around everyone's neck and that their symbols are shown. These guys are carrying around flags with this snake. And I think either the Indians noticed this or they didn't, because the snake is Quetzalcoatl. And it's been here longer than this place. This is George Washington, my friends. This is George Washington. I promise you. Thank you so much for watching James True. Sorry for bitching at the middle. If you want to join Patreon, it would really help. It really would. I'm not kidding about the whole... I don't mind moving. I just want to do it in a little bit smoother way where I don't have to stop what I'm doing. Okay? I don't mind. If I need to do this with less money, I will. But I need money to even make it to where I can do it with less money. So, if you appreciate this, I appreciate working on it. Maybe join Patreon. Just give me a year. Please, give me 6 months. Just tell yourself, I'm going to do this until June, and I'm going to feel great about it. And when I quit in June, I'm going to still feel great. Even if I still watch James. Hey, I did this till June. If you could do that, it would really go a long way. I appreciate you guys. Really do. Love what I do. Hope you enjoyed this talk. Think about these things. Smell Turtle Island. Next time you touch the soil, go, hey, I heard something about you. Hey, did you know that you this? He's going to be like, yeah, I know. Thanks for noticing. I appreciate you noticing. Thanks for watching, James True. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You